Elemental begins with a visually appealing intro, and this style is preserved through the cutscenes and outro as well. Although it may seem there is a tangible story to the game, it is not self-explanatory. The plot is open for interpretation. You may call Elemental a journey type of story, where you, as an Elemental, go through various worlds seeking soul parts. The game is very self-conscious, and it often breaks the fourth wall, thanks to the narrator, who accompanies you throughout the whole journey. This narrator tends to speak directly to the gamer, like when he addresses you saying, "Ready, player one?" He comments on your gameplay and sometimes makes references to popular culture. Before the game begins, you are introduced to a launcher that allows you to configure key bindings and graphics. The main menu of the game is simplistic but intuitive, and it has a very nice musical background. In options, you may tone down the difficulty of the game so that you will have more energy and checkpoints. You can also enable or disable ghosts that will appear during the race mode. Finally, you can change the volume or turn off the music. Other things found in the main menu include race mode that allows you to compete against other players indirectly through the levels you have already unlocked. New game allows you to select any of the levels that you passed. Finally, you may continue the game starting with the last level you played. Elemental is a very beautiful game. Its drawn art style is very colorful and pleasing to look at. There are 4 different worlds you will travel through, and each has its own graphical style that varies in tone and colors. This influences the overall atmosphere, and each stage is varied and interesting. In some stages you will come across weather effects like snow, wind or rain, and some will affect your gameplay. We consider soundtrack to be Elemental's strongest point. It consists of several music pieces that will change each time you restart a level. It is very varied, soothing, and fits the tone of the game most of the time. We conclude that music is the one thing that helps tone down some of the frustration you will have when you get stuck at a given part of the game. What is worth mentioning is that when you get underwater, the music is dulled down as if you listened to it from behind a wall, which is a very interesting effect in itself. Elemental is a platformer in which the goal is to get to the end of the stage while figuring out how to pass certain obstacles along your way. What makes Elemental unique is your indirect control of the elements. You have 4 elements to switch between: air, fire, water, and stone. Water has 2 states and can be either solid ice block or liquid. Each element has its own properties that will allow you to progress. For instance, air allows you to jump and hover when moving up. Stone gives you a downward movement and enables you to break the walls. Ice slides along paths and is the basic means of movement. And fire allows you to dash right. The tricky part is that you cannot make the elements move left, so it is a challenge in its own right to figure out how to move through certain corridors and paths efficiently. The levels you go through vary in their difficulty, which is not really proportionate to your progress. You may run into a rather difficult stage early on, just to breeze quickly through a stage that is unproblematic later on. Some stages have parts that require you to be very precise, and they might seem impossible at first. However, after you figure out the precise timing and what elements to use, you will always beat a given part smoothly. This is the key point in Elemental. You have to master the game's controls and practice the stages, memorize them, and figure out the best strategies to get through. The game begins with a helpful tutorial that allows you to get the general feeling of the controls, giving you some direct instructions about movement in form of icons. And offers hints whenever you get stuck with any of the obstacles, via ghost that will appear showing you how to pass the problematic part. In between tutorial stages, you are given additional instructions in form of pictures and text. This will give you some general idea about how to play. You won't feel like a master at first, and the game does tend to be frustrating at times, but all in all, it is a fair challenge. Since the game saves your progress right after you beat a stage, you may go back to it later on. Besides, you have a lot of checkpoints, and infinite continues. However, while checkpoints are placed around often, sometimes they are still farther from each other than you'd hope for, especially in the case of some difficult sections, but these are minor problematic instances. The stages are pretty varied, and you will occasionally have an option of choosing your route. Though most of the time there is just one way to go. It is rather impossible to get lost in this game, and you will be sometimes notified about going the wrong way. What's nice about the stages is how at times you will have to use their parts to progress, like when you have to block a hole that acts like a drain, causing water to rise that will help you boost up and get out of the crevice. There is a part when you have to use a big stone to clear your path, and the game is full of the kind of varieties that will keep you entertained. One stage introduces a roller coaster for you to ride. The key to pass most stages is keeping your momentum, which tends to be a difficult thing to do. Therefore, sometimes there are power-ups placed strategically to help you progress. One power-up refills your power meter so you can reach higher, and there is also a power-up that grants you unlimited energy for several seconds. However, there are also downgrades that will take away all your energy, making a given section a bit more tricky. It is useful to explore the maps because there are lost sparks hidden throughout them. Each stage has 2 hidden lost sparks. They are sometimes tricky to get, hidden in parts of the stage that you wouldn't normally think to go. But other times they are in places that are not that hard to get to. What is interesting, after you get a lost spark, it will be marked as found and you will not have to look for it again, even after starting the level all over. After reaching the end of the stage, you are awarded a bronze, silver, or gold flag. In accordance with how well you played, the game shows you statistics pointing on how many elements were lost, how fast you moved through the stage, and how many lost sparks you found. While the game is generally flawless, we did run into a few peculiar bugs. At one point where you have to change into an ice block and melt to progress. After melting, you can still see the ice block's outline. It doesn't affect the gameplay, and it will disappear after you change the element again. Another time, at the beginning of a stage, we encountered an invisible stone that blocked us, but these are very minor flaws all in all. Element4l is without doubt a very entertaining, very challenging and very beautiful game. Despite the very high difficulty in certain stages, the game remains fair due to its checkpoints and difficulty settings. There is no stage you cannot pass, and the game varies its difficulty, giving you tricky and hard parts along with easier ones to let you relax. When you get a given section right and you pass it smoothly in this roller coaster fashion, you really get that feeling of accomplishment. The game's rating system for each stage and awarding flags will keep some gamers coming back to beat their own scores. They also may aim at getting all of the lost sparks that will unlock a certain bonus for the player. One cannot forget about the race mode that will allow one to compete with other players in how fast you can pass a given stage. Still, the biggest problem for some gamers will be the unique system of control and inability to move freely in every direction. You need a bit of patience to learn this system, but once you do, the game is generally not that difficult and also not very long, unless you wish to get a perfect score on all stages. We give Element4l 4 out of 5 cubes. It is a nearly perfect game. If only it had a bit longer tutorial portion and a few more easy stages at the beginning that would allow players to get used to the controls more, that would hammer out the few minor complaints. Right now, the game is simply very good.
The never-ending tale.